When Maya first received the email, she read it 3 times to be sure she understood. An overseas assignment. Her name, specifically requested. For years, she had worked quietly at the logistics company, fixing problems no one else wanted to touch. She stayed late, skipped vacations, and answered calls on weekends. Promotions passed her by, but she told herself patience mattered. Hard work would speak eventually. The email felt like proof that it finally had. Her boss called later that afternoon. His voice was smooth, almost cheerful. He said the company was facing serious challenges, with suppliers abroad, and needed someone reliable. Someone detail-oriented. Someone who wouldn't mess things up. Maya listened carefully, heart pounding. When he said, "You're the only one I trust with this," she felt a rush of pride she hadn't felt in years. The trip would last 3 weeks, maybe 4. Flights, hotel, meals all covered by the company card. Just focus on the work, he said. Handle everything on the ground. Maya hesitated for a moment. She had responsibilities at home. Bills, family. But saying no felt dangerous. Opportunities didn't come twice for people like her. So she agreed. That night, she packed with careful hands. Business clothes on one side of the suitcase. Personal items on the other. She left her apartment neat, almost spotless, as if order might protect her from uncertainty. Before locking the door, she paused, feeling a strange heaviness she couldn't explain. The flight was long and uncomfortable, giving her too much time to think. She rehearsed meetings in her head. Imagined shaking hands, solving problems, proving her worth. When she landed, the air felt thick and unfamiliar. The city was loud, crowded, alive. Maya reminded herself this was temporary. Just work. At the hotel, she checked in without issue. The company card worked. The room was small but clean. She sat on the edge of the bed and let out a slow breath. She had made it. The next morning, she began immediately. Meetings, calls, site visits. Suppliers were frustrated. Deadlines had been missed, payments delayed. Maya listened more than she spoke. She took notes. She apologized on behalf of the company, even when the problems weren't her fault. Slowly, people began to open up. But something felt off. Messages to her boss went unanswered for hours, sometimes days. When he did reply, the responses were short, dismissive. "Handle it," he wrote once. Another time, "Don't overcomplicate things." Maya pushed the discomfort aside. She told herself stress made people distant. She focused on results. If she fixed this, everything would be fine. She didn't know yet that this assignment wasn't a reward, it was a setup. The first week passed in a blur of meetings and long days. Maya woke before sunrise and returned to her hotel after dark, her mind constantly racing with numbers, contracts, and deadlines. She told herself the exhaustion was normal. Overseas work was always intense. Still, small things began to bother her, things she couldn't easily explain. At one supplier's office, a manager casually mentioned hearing rumors about her company tightening budgets. Maya laughed it off, saying she hadn't been told anything like that. But the comment stayed with her. Later that evening, she sent a message to her boss asking for clarification. The reply came almost 12 hours later: "Everything's fine. Stay focused." A few days later, another warning appeared. Maya tried to extend her hotel stay at the front desk, just to be safe. The receptionist frowned at the screen, and said the company approval hadn't gone through yet. It was a small delay, easily explained, but Maya felt a knot form in her stomach. She paid attention to her surroundings more carefully after that. How the hotel staff looked at her. How often she checked her phone. How quiet her inbox had become. The real shock came during a routine dinner meeting with a key supplier. Maya ordered modestly, mindful of expenses. When the bill arrived, she handed over the company card without a second thought. The waiter returned moments later, his expression polite but firm. The card had been declined. Her face burned as she reached into her wallet and paid with her own cash. She apologized more than necessary, blaming a technical error. The supplier said nothing, but the mood shifted. Trust, once cracked, never looks the same. Back at the hotel, Maya immediately emailed accounting and her boss. She attached the receipt, explained what happened, and asked for reassurance. Hours passed, no response. She checked her bank balance, doing the math in her head. She could survive for a few days on her own money, maybe a week if she was careful. Finally, a reply came, short and vague. Temporary issue. System problem, don't worry. Maya wanted to believe that. But worry had already settled in. She began keeping her receipts, tracking every expense, cutting corners wherever possible. She walked instead of taking taxis. She skipped meals. She avoided extending plans, afraid of drawing attention. Her boss grew colder. When she reported progress, he asked only how fast things could be finalized. No praise. No questions about her well-being. Once, when she mentioned the card issue again, he replied, "Stop creating problems." Late at night, lying in the dark hotel room, Maya stared at the ceiling and listened to the sounds of the city outside. For the first time since arriving, she considered the possibility that something was very wrong. She replayed every conversation, every ignored message, every strange delay. The assignment that once felt like recognition now felt like isolation. And deep down, Maya sensed she was being tested, not for her skills, but for how much she would endure before breaking. The message arrived when Maya was half asleep, her phone buzzing sharply on the bedside table. For a moment, she thought it might be an emergency from home. She reached for the screen with heavy eyes, already anxious. What she read stole the air from her lungs. "We're letting you go. Effective immediately, your company card has been cancelled. Your return flight is no longer active. Arrange your own travel." That was it. No greeting, no explanation. No signature. Just a digital notice ending her job and abandoning her thousands of miles from home. Maya sat up slowly, reading the message again and again. Hoping she had misunderstood, her hands began to shake. She tried calling her boss immediately. Straight to voicemail. She called again. Nothing. She sent a short reply, asking for clarification. The message stayed unread. Panic crept in, sharp and physical. Her chest felt tight. She swung her legs off the bed and paced the small hotel room, counting her breaths. First things first, she told herself. Think clearly. She checked her wallet. A small amount of local currency. Her bank app showed a balance that would barely cover a few nights, if she was careful. She went downstairs to the front desk, as soon as the sun rose. The receptionist greeted her politely, then grew uncomfortable as she typed on the computer. The company had cancelled future payments. According to the system, Maya's stay ended that morning. She could extend it only by paying herself. Maya nodded, forcing calm. She paid for one more night. It felt like buying time, not safety. Back in her room, she sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. Anger began to replace fear. Not loud anger. Cold anger. She thought about the work she had done. Weeks of negotiations, damaged relationships repaired, deals brought back from the edge of collapse. She had given everything. And now she was being erased. As if she had never mattered. She emailed human resources, no reply. She emailed accounting, no reply. It was as if the company had sealed itself shut the moment she became inconvenient. Outside, the city moved on without her. Traffic honked. People laughed. Life continued. Maya felt invisible inside it, a stranger with no anchor. As the hours passed, something inside her shifted. She stopped waiting for a response. She stopped hoping for an apology. In the quiet of that hotel room, she realized something important. The company had cut her loose. But they had not taken away what she had built. She opened her laptop and reviewed the contracts, the messages. The contacts she had earned through trust, not authority. The suppliers didn't know she'd been fired. And more importantly, they didn't answer to her boss. They answered to relationships. Maya closed her laptop slowly. Her heart beating steadier now. They had abandoned her. But they had made one mistake, they had done it too early. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window of her hotel room, watching headlights slide through the dark streets below, her mind moving faster than the traffic outside. Fear was still there, but it no longer controlled her. In its place was something sharper, clarity. If the company thought cutting her off would end everything, they were wrong. At dawn, she packed her suitcase carefully, as if order could keep her steady. She checked out of the hotel with a polite smile, even as her hands trembled slightly. With nowhere definite to go, she headed to the one place that still made sense, the suppliers who trusted her. Her first visit was to a manufacturing partner she had worked closely with during the trip. When Maya explained what had happened, there was a long silence. The supplier leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing, not in suspicion, but in anger. He told her this wasn't the first time her company had treated people this way. Contracts signed, promises broken, people discarded. Word spread quickly, one conversation led to another. Maya didn't exaggerate or ask for sympathy. She simply told the truth. The reaction surprised her. Instead of distancing themselves, the suppliers rallied around her. They offered advice, introductions, even temporary help with accommodations. That afternoon, a meeting changed everything. A representative from a competing firm asked to speak with her privately. He had heard her name mentioned more than once in recent weeks. Her reputation, it turned out, had traveled faster than she had realized. They met in a quiet cafe. He listened as she explained her role, her work, and what had happened. He didn't interrupt. When she finished, he leaned forward and said something that stayed with her. "You're not disposable. Your company just treated you like you were." He offered her a short-term consulting role, nothing flashy, but enough to cover her expenses and keep her legally working. More importantly, it was offered with respect. Maya took a moment before agreeing. For the first time, the choice felt like hers. Back at her temporary lodging that evening, she received her first email from her former company since the firing. It was brief and demanding. They needed updates, they needed documents, they needed her cooperation. Maya didn't reply. The next message was angrier. Then came a threat about contracts and ownership. Maya read them calmly, saving every word. She forwarded nothing, explained nothing. Instead, she focused on building something new. She formalized agreements with people who valued transparency. She worked long hours again, but this time, each effort felt like progress, not sacrifice. By the end of the week, Maya was no longer stranded, she was rooted. The company that abandoned her believed silence would weaken her. Instead, it gave her space to turn survival into control. And the balance of power quietly shifted. Maya returned home 6 weeks later, not with relief, but with purpose. The city she landed in looked the same, but she wasn't. She carried no company badge, no official title, yet she felt stronger than she ever had while wearing them. What had happened overseas no longer felt like an ending. It felt like a line crossed. In the months that followed, the consequences unfolded quietly but completely. The company that had fired her began losing contracts, one by one. Without public explanation. Suppliers stopped responding. Meetings were postponed, then cancelled. Internally, the division Maya once supported began to unravel. Deadlines were missed. Collections were delayed. The leadership blamed the market, then each other. Maya watched from a distance. She didn't interfere, she didn't celebrate. She simply continued building her own work. Through consulting, she earned more than she ever had as an employee. More importantly, she chose who she worked with. Every agreement was clear. Every expectation was mutual. Respect was no longer a bonus, it was a requirement. She spoke openly about ethics, about trust. About what happens when companies forget the people who hold their systems together. Eventually, she received an email from her former boss. The tone was different now. Polite. Careful. He asked if she would be willing to discuss unresolved matters. And potential collaboration. Maya read the message once, then archived it. Some conversations only exist to protect the person asking for them. The final confirmation came almost a year later. A former colleague called her, voice low, and told her the overseas division had been shut down entirely. Investors had pulled out. The brand had taken a quiet but lasting hit, no announcement. No apology, just closure. Maya didn't feel triumph, she felt peace. She thought back to that night in the hotel room, staring at the ceiling, convinced she had lost everything. In reality, she had lost a system that was built to keep her small. Being stranded had forced her to see how capable she truly was, without permission, without supervision, without fear. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive with courtrooms or headlines. Sometimes it arrives slowly, in balance restored. The people who exploit lose access. The people who build finally keep what they create. Maya now tells her story not for sympathy, but as a warning. To companies who believe power protects them. To workers who think silence is safety. And to anyone who has ever been made to feel disposable. They left her stranded overseas. They thought the card stopping would end her. Instead, It was the moment her life finally started moving, on her own terms. They fired me with one text, canceled my card, and left me alone in a foreign country. What they didn't know is that one mistake would destroy their entire company.